what we're going to do for this reading session is we're going to introduce ourselves one at a time, then read as I call on people. If everybody who's not reading will go ahead and put their mute on like so many lovely people have done before. And I said we're going to go in anti-alphabetical order, but I might be lying. You'll have to stick around to find out. Anyway, I'm going to go first since I'm at the end of the alphabet and I'm moderating so I can do what the hell I want. So I am Barbara Ann Wright. I am a fantasy and science fiction writer for Bold Strokes Books. I am also an editor, which means I know how to do lovely things with commas. So what I'm going to be reading from is The Noble and the Nightingale. It's my newest release from BSB, my latest fantasy romance. And in this section that I'm going to be reading from, my main character, Adela, is spending the evening outdoors with her sisters after a stressful day, and she cannot keep her mind off of Bridget, a woman who she's been falling for. From their place on the low wall dividing the street, Gisela bumped Adela's arm. It's a great start, isn't it? Giselle bumped Adela's arm. "What is Zara up to in front of that pie shop over there?" she said. Adela grinned as she watched the exchange. The pie man was even redder in the face than the last time she looked, where Zara had her hands behind her back in the demeanor of an icy statue. "She's doing delicate negotiations," Adela said. "Uh-oh," Giselle said. "What did the pie man do?" Adela lifted an eyebrow in her best Zara impression. "Your sign, good sir," she said, clearly advertises that each pie contains, amongst other ingredients, potatoes, in the plural. As my pie only possessed one potato, I believe a partial refund is in order." Giselle cackled and kicked her feet like a small child. "Oh, she did not call him good sir," she said. "She did," Adela said. "I ran away after that." "Oh, Zara." Giselle shook her head, but the words were said with affection. She and Zara might fight a good deal, but they did love each other. Mostly. "Here!" the pie man roared across the street, the sound carrying. He ducked back inside his shop for a moment. "Take some potatoes and be damned." He chucked several at Zara's feet. She regarded them coolly and said something in return. The pie man disappeared into his shop again, and the clang of cooking implements echoed across the street. When he reemerged, he shoved a bag into Zara's arms. She bowed and turned. He watched her walk away with a murderous expression. "Quiet," Adela said to Giselle, snickering. "She won't let you off as easily as the pie man if you laugh at her." "What did you get, Z?" Giselle called. Zara opened the bag. "A handful of fingerling potatoes." "Seems a bit excessive," she shrugged. "Worth more than a partial refund," Giselle said, her voice tight with barely controlled mirth. Zara seemed not to notice. "I agree, but he seemed so upset, I thought I shouldn't argue." She looked in the bag again. "Oh," and she pulled out a large metal spoon. "I don't think he meant for me to have this. Perhaps I should—" "No," Adela and Giselle said at the same time. Giselle hopped off the wall with a little wince. "Here, let me. He might throw you in his oven." She grabbed the spoon and was off before Adela could offer to go or Zara could utter something about how he wouldn't dare. Adela patted the space beside her until Zara sat. "Potatoes aside," she said, "how was the pie?" "Quite tasty." Zara nodded happily, her dark eyes twinkling. But over the pie or the victory, Adela didn't know. A few strains of music floated down the street, and Bridget popped into Adela's mind. She sighed, trying to think of what she could say in the morning to further apologize about implying Bridget had a criminal past. Or perhaps she could use the age-old method of pretending their disagreement had never happened. Oh, well, she didn't have to worry about it now. She could enjoy her evening, and if thoughts of Bridget rose again, she could focus on the memory of their toe-curling kisses. Giselle returned swiftly. "People are dancing outside the tavern across the street. Let's get some iced buns and watch." Adela hopped down to join her, lured by the promise of dessert and desirous to flee the glares of the pie man. They bought their buns quickly before continuing down the street. The bar Giselle had spoken of sat across Bond Street from the constabulary, with a stone bridge spanning a dip in the little park to connect the two halves of the street. People stood all along the bridge, warming themselves by a scattering of braziers. Adela smiled as she nibbled her bun and watched the dancers across the bridge. The festival-like atmosphere was just what she needed to clear her head. "Why don't you join them?" Giselle asked. "What, dance by myself?" Adela asked. "Or do you feel well enough to volunteer?" Giselle barked a laugh. "I have never been a dancer, and I never will be." Adela shook her head. Who then? Not me, Zara said with no pain or wistfulness at all. She finished her bun in 3 efficient bites. You don't have any rhythm, Giselle said. Zara bristled. I could dance if I wanted. Children, Adela said, don't start. Anyway, Giselle said loudly, I've already secured you a partner, Adela. Adela frowned. Ooh. She looked in the direction of Giselle's pointing finger, picking out a figure approaching through the meager crowd. It paused near one of the braziers, and the lean body and crooked grin sparked her desire even before she fully registered who it was. Bridget. She turned to Giselle. How? The message I sent, silly, Giselle said. I figured you could use a friend besides us. For dancing? Or anything else? Adela gave her a dark look, but she couldn't be angry. She barely needed Giselle's little push to shove her dessert into Zara's hands and start walking. Hello, she said when she reached the brazier. Hi. Bridget cocked her head. I'm glad I found you. Your note didn't say exactly where to meet. She craned her neck to peer around Adela. Or was it your note? Your surprised expression makes me think otherwise. It was Giselle's matchmaking skills. Ah, Bridget said, and the other woman is Zara, middle sister. Gods, Bridget said, how many beautiful women can one family have? Adela laughed. You're a charmer. Just 3, and yes, I will tell them you said that. They'll know you're trying to curry favor just so they'll approve of you, though. Bridget ducked her head. She seemed as if she might say something else, but Adela didn't want to talk about her family or anything else. She'd come out to lose herself for a bit. Perhaps Bridget wanted to do the same. Would you like to dance? Adela asked. Bridget grinned as if that was something she'd been waiting to hear. Only if I can dance with you. After a shared chuckle, they moved into the music, blending with the other dancers into a lively reel. Adela threw her head back and laughed. She hadn't danced like this in years. Court functions and work gatherings sometimes had dancing, but it was more like courtly maneuvering with structured steps and precise movements. This felt wild, a chance to kick and spin and turn. The night and the firelight and the music created a bubble around her, and nothing bad could get through. Better still, Bridget whirled through the bubble with her, all flashing eyes and ringing hands and ringing laughs and expert hands that kept Adela's wild steps from trampling other dancers. When the tempo changed, falling, Bridget drew her close, her arms like a stronghold as they swayed together. She wrapped one around Adela's shoulder and the other around her waist. The lower hand crept under Adela's jacket to leave trails of fire along her lower back, even through her dress. Adela put her hands on Bridget's hips and luxuriated in their sway. It seemed the most natural thing in the world to fall into Bridget's smoldering gaze and move even closer, letting her eyes slip closed as their lips met. This kiss had the heat of the others, but it felt more like a slow burn and not the roar of their previous encounters. Adela lost herself in the slow, sensuous movements of Bridget's mouth, letting the music keep guiding her until everything but their point of contact disappeared. So that is how you trip over your words a lot. Thank you very much. And make a lot of mistakes. I'm glad I did it first. So now no one has to.
Barbara, I have decided that instead of swearing at somebody who makes me mad, I'm going to say, take some potatoes and be damned.
Love it.
I agree. Yes, I think everyone should now adopt that as what it is that they say. Okay, so now I'm going to pick on Nance Sparks to introduce herself, introduce her reading, and then take it away.
Got it. I'd be happy to do that. Hello, everyone. I'm Nance Sparks, and I'll be reading from my debut novel, Cowgirl. I'd like to introduce you to my characters. Erin Jacobs trusts no one. Reeling from a devastating altercation with her foster family that's left her scarred inside and out, she's all too happy to isolate herself from the world, especially the rumors floating around town accusing her of murder. Carol Matthews has just finished college and is spending some time with her aunt and uncle before she decides where life will take her. That is until her world's turned upside down and she's left with no family, injured, and homeless. This is the moment that they begin to help each other heal. Chapter 14. Dark shadows emerge from all sides. Erin could hear people calling for her, calling to her, telling her to run, but begging her for help. Mom? Mom, is that you? Is it really you? Erin's voice sounded so far away. Mom, look out. He's behind you. Run. Erin, wake up. Carol's voice pulled her from the dark shadows. Hey, are you okay? Erin sat up and rubbed her face. Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay? What are you doing up? My leg hurt. I had to take a pain pill. You were screaming. Did you have a nightmare? Erin stood and stretched her back. Yeah, just a bad dream. Nothing new. You want a cup of coffee? Are you staying up? You're not even going to try to go back to sleep? Erin picked up the coffee pot. No point. Might as well get the day started. But it's only 3 o'clock in the morning. You can't make it on just a few hours sleep. Carol, it's like this most every night. Well, what did you dream about? Carol hobbled over to the table and sat down. And please don't ask me if we can talk about it some other time, because some other time never seems to come. Erin looked up from lighting the stove with a wooden match. It was just a bad dream. No big deal. You have them often, don't you? Bad dreams, I mean. Erin walked over and sat across from Carol. She fidgeted with the spent matchstick still in her hands. What would Carol think of her if she answered any of these questions with even a bit of truth? Erin leaned back in her chair. Maybe she needed to give it a try. You know, I've been alone on this land for over 4 years. You're the first visitor I've had. And to be quite honest, well, the truth is I don't have any friends. The people in town don't think much of me. I'm the freak out on Thompson Road that lives on the cursed Harris farm. I don't drive a car, and yet I have a small road atlas carved into my face. The thing that people forget is that I'm legally blind, not deaf. I know what they say about me. I've heard the murmurs. I've seen the finger pointing. They all think they know, but they don't know a thing. They don't have a clue about what happened that night. Erin felt the wooden match snap in her fingers. She set the two pieces down on the table. All I'm saying is that it's weird to have someone sit at my table and ask me about my dreams. It's been a really long time since I've talked to anyone like you want me to talk to you. Carol reached over for Erin's hand. But that's what friends do. They talk about things. They talk about funny things and serious things and difficult things. Don't you want a friend? Erin nodded. I miss it, friendship. As much as I've told myself over the years that I hate people and that I'm better off alone, I do miss it. Well, then let me be there for you. Let me be your friend. Well, why? What's the point, Carol? The funeral's coming up, and then in a few weeks you'll get your walking cast. I imagine you have a life you want to get back to. So what's the point of opening all these old wounds? You talk about friendship, but you won't be here to be my friend. You'll be off somewhere living your life, and I'll be here alone, trying to stuff everything back inside. Carol sat there for a moment. I'm sorry, I never thought about it that way. Maybe we could use this time to help each other heal. How about I start? She rubbed her face with her hands. Erin, I'm lost. I'm stuck at a crossroads. You see, I don't have a life to go back to. I don't even know where to go from here. What, so you don't have anything waiting for you? No home? Erin looked up. Maybe Carol wouldn't leave so soon after all. I honestly hadn't planned anything beyond visiting my aunt and uncle. As soon as I graduated, I gave up the apartment, left campus. For years, I've known exactly what I want to do with my life. The problem is, I don't know where I want to do it. My parents are gone. Now my aunt and uncle are gone. I'm stuck in this lost limbo. I mean, where do I go? Where do I settle down and create a life? Maybe you should stay. Create your life here. Erin picked up the broken matchstick and rolled it in her fingers. Well, could I live here in this town? So many childhood memories. Carol's eyes asked the question as much as her words. Well, are they good memories? Wouldn't it be nice to stay somewhere where you're surrounded with good memories? Is that why you bought this farm? Are you surrounded with good memories? My situation's different. Erin's jaw muscle tightened up. But how so? Please, talk to me. Tell me something, anything. I will. I'm doing my best. Erin couldn't look up. She focused on the matchstick. Well, how about something simple? Why do you live in the loft of the barn and not the house? Carol's voice was soft and tender. It's like a delicate touch. There's nothing simple about that question. I'm not ready to talk about the house. Erin sat back and tried to keep her voice steady. The barn, then. Do you have good memories in the barn? The look on Carol's face seemed to be pleading for an answer. Yeah, the barn. That was a source of many good memories. But that wasn't why she didn't live in the house. The house, that night, it was all still so vivid in her mind, even after 4 years. But the barn had always been her safe place. Maybe that'd be a good place to start. This barn, especially the loft, became my sanctuary from the world shortly after I was assigned here. When things became too much or I just needed to feel centered, feel safe, I'd come up here to the loft. Sometimes I'd climb up high in the hay, almost to the peak. I'd lay on my back and watch the dust particles reflect the sunlight, like floating flakes of gold dancing in the breeze. Erin looked over to the stacked hay. Do you still do that? Climb up to the top of the hay? Carol asked. Nah, I haven't done it in years. Erin felt Carol's hand cover hers. It felt good to be touched again. All of it felt good. The conversation, the interest, the gentle touches. Maybe Carol pulling her out of her shell, even an inch at a time, was just what she needed. Erin looked up into Carol's kind, understanding eyes. Carol, I enjoy having you here. Please stay for as long as you want, okay? Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing too. It means a lot to me. Erin squeezed Carol's hand before releasing it. She wasn't sure what else to say. It was all so new. Hell, sharing feelings, acknowledging feelings wasn't her strong suit. It was Carol's, though. And maybe Carol was right. Maybe they could help each other heal.
Very well done.
Thank
Applause,
you.
applause. Enjoyed that very much. I'm sure a lot of people will be looking that one up.
Thank you.
Okay, now we go to all the way across the ocean, Lynn, Hemphill, where, what is it, like midnight there or something?
It's not. It's only 7 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening.
Oh, well.
Lovely sunset.
That's good. It's a little disappointing we didn't have to wake you up in the middle of the night. It seems like we should do that at least once every panel.
Oh yeah, the other sessions I usually stay up late.
Yes. Well, Lynn, please introduce yourself, introduce your book, and then give us a reading.
Okay. Hello. I'm Lynn, and my new book, my debut book with Bold Strokes, is Not Broken. It's about a misanthropic, grumpy, isolated woman called Rose, who has doesn't really listen to her feelings or anybody else's, and has lost everybody that she cares for in life, and joins in with this group of musicians and their groupies, their sort of friends and sort of tag-alongs, and starts to realize that she's going to have to break open these layers that she's made around herself if she wants to go forward and if she wants to actually feel love again. And this is sort of a couple of months after knowing these guys. They're going on tour. They've just been signed, and she and all the others are taking a big minibus along with them. At this point, Rose doesn't yet know that Max, the guy that she has a massive crush on, is trans. She thinks that he's gay because his best friend looks after him and is quite overprotective of him, so she thinks they're in a relationship together. But this is hopefully the first time that she's going to realize that actually there's something more to this guy than just his looks, and he presses all the buttons. Rose was waiting in the Argos car park for almost half an hour before the hired minibus pulled up for her, but she was so hyper she didn't even notice the cold. The sunbirds leaned out their windows when they saw her, whoops and juvenile shouts cutting the cold morning air. She grinned and pulled herself aboard, and they were off to the next stop. Max and Chelsea were the last to be collected, sharing a ciggy by the side of the road near a McDonald's. Eliza honked at them and parked up. All right, you've got half an hour to get what you want, any longer, and I'm leaving you here. Yes, Mum, Rose said, following Miho off the bus and winking at Eliza. Yeah, Eliza replied, rolling her eyes. She leaned forward as another horn sounded. Late as always, she yelled as the band's van pulled up beside them. Frank had traded in his Focus for the Beat the moment they got the black box contract signed, and within days he and Jossie sharpied their logos on the sliding doors. They'd then added the dates and venues of every gig they played, and Rose was starting to wonder whether the DVLA would even consider it a white fan anymore. Eliza was dead serious about the timing and the rest of her new official status as band manager. As people returned to the minibus, she ticked them off a register and passed around copies of the itinerary. Alicia shoved a clump of red hair behind her ears and flicked through it. Jesus, Liz, you've forgotten to schedule time for us to take a dump. Shit on your own time, princess. If I'm going to get those dopey ass boys around 7 venues in 7 days, I'm going to have to be this stupidly organised. Connor laughed. Bloody hell, it's like being on deployment again. He clicked his heels together and saluted. Sir, yes, sir. Get in, you pillock. The first leg down to Cornwall was one of the longest trips, and half of the group was asleep before they even left Oxfordshire. Rose leant back into her corner seat and chatted quietly to Miho, watching as she applied perfect eyeliner in between speed bumps and roundabouts. Max was sitting on Miho's other side, and Rose told herself she wasn't a teenager anymore, and she certainly wasn't allowed to get butterflies about her gay attached friend. But damn, his legs went on forever. No Jamie this week, she asked. Max turned a slow smile on her. Nah, October's not that busy, but there's still quite a lot of ploughing and cultivation to do. You guys are farmers, right? Contractors, yeah. She raised an eyebrow, gesturing for more information. We've only got a small farm, but a lot of equipment, so people hire us to do the farming for them. That way, a little farm doesn't have to get all the expensive equipment all the time, so they don't have to worry about maintenance costs and so on. We've got about 6 or 7 farms on the books, but Jamie's dad is sending a bit more work our way now. He's getting about a bit older. She nodded. How come you're not doing something with music, though? You're crazy about it, and you're really good. He laughed and looked down almost shyly. No way. I can't play music. I just like it. You could be a sound tech, though, Miho said, putting her mascara away. He scrunched his nose up. There's not much money in it, is there? I know I've got a steady income this way, and it's somewhere to live at least. And I enjoy farming, really. I get to be out in the countryside, and I can listen to music all the time, too. Rose shrugged and let it go. Miles of tarmac and countryside disappeared under their wheels, broken by overpriced service station food, uncomfortable sleep against the juddering glass, and conversations with a steady rotation of friends. It didn't matter who was sitting next to her. Rose felt like she could get along with any of these charming idiots, and her introversion sank away in the face of music and ratty hostels, long bus journeys and late nights. She hardly spoke to the guys at the centre of the circus for days at a time, but when the little group of misfits gathered in front of the stage and the first chords split the night, they melded together to form an army. It was the music weaving them into a coherent whole that seemed to grow each night as more and more strangers joined their ridiculous dances, clapped in rhythm, and sang the words right back to the stage. Max started giggling to himself somewhere between Penzance and St. Ives. It was only 9 a.m. after another late gig last night, and even sitting next to him, Rose was starting to space out. She turned to him and raised her sunglasses. What are you sniggering at? He pointed at the car beside him on the motorway. A number plate says FML. Rose snorted. Damn, do you think they bought it just for that? I mean, I would. She leaned on his shoulder to get a look at the next car in the queue. That one's DMZ. She sat back and scrunched her face up. Department of Magical Zoology? All right, new Scamander. He smirked. What about KTW? What's with all these number plates and their high Scrabble ratings? She grumbled. Max tipped his head back, tapping into his chin. KTW. Kill the Wicked? Damn, boy, start a band with that name. I was thinking more like Kittens That Wrestle. Max laughed, his face crinkling up. Rose grinned and squashed that stupid fluttering in her stomach. The bus rolled forward a bit, shifting them further up the line. There's SJA, Max said, pointing at a little Vauxhall. Sounds just awful, Rose said. Max tipped his head back and Rose bit her lip, watching his throat move. She tore her eyes away. Not cool. Jamie wasn't here to get jealous, but damn. Are you casting aspersions on that support group last night? Max said, twinkling down at her. Would I do such a thing? Absolutely you would. She nodded. You were right, they were terrible. Susie juices apples, Max said, snapping his fingers. That's so lame, she snorted. Someone juggles asses. Max almost doubled up with giggles. Oh, does someone juggle asses? You think I'm lame? At least I make sense. Miho yawned and stretched out in the seat in front of them, knelt on her chair and blinked at the two of them, her chin resting on the seat. What are you two doing? She asked. Max pointed at another car in the queue. The reg plate of that car is JCQ. Any ideas what that can stand for? Just crap at queuing, Rose said. Max grinned. Jason can't quit. Miho blinked at them. I don't know. Jenny can... No fair, you guys took all the Q words. Queen, Rose said, smirking. Quidditch, question, quoits. Quoits? Max laughed. He looked fantastic laughing. Rose decided to keep him in that state of giddy hysteria as long as possible. How does a townie even know about quoits? I didn't know it was a country boy thing, she said. It's a pub game like Aunt Sally. What the hell is Aunt Sally? He grinned. It's a pub game like quoits. Rose pinched her lips together and slapped him with the back of her hand. He yelped and pushed her away. Don't you dare, she yelled, holding herself up on Chelsea's seat across the aisle. Chelsea blinked at her, then slumped back against Aretha. Max grabbed her sleeve and pulled her back to the window again. Oh my God, Rose, Rose, look, he whisper shouted, pointing at the car pulling past them. It's the Holy Grail, Rose. SMD, Rose said, a gleeful smile spreading across her face. Holy cow. What? Miho said, leaning over. What is it? I don't get it. Rose snickered. SMD, suck my... Max slapped a hand over her mouth. Don't you dare, not Miho, she's too pure. Miho's forehead crinkled into a pout. What? She whined. I don't get it. Max and Rose collapsed in childish giggles. Rose could almost imagine she wasn't internally freaking out about him, leaning his forehead against her shoulder as they cackled. Miho groaned and sat back down. You two are weirdos. That's it.
Yay!
All right,
That was
trying to
awesome.
get my video to start. There we go. Yes, it's very good. Yes,
That was fantastic.
that was awesome. Full disclosure, Lynn is one of my authors. I am her editor. So if you want to get on my good side, buy her book and say good things about it. That always works. So continuing our trend, next we have the great Lesley Davis, her of the many paranormal books I have read. And she is going to introduce herself, introduce her book, and then take it away, Lesley.
Thank you very much. I am reading from In the Spotlight, which is the sequel to Starstruck. This is going to introduce us to some new characters, Cole and Eris, who are actresses. They're doing a film from one of Aidan's books. They are the love interest in this. I'm going to read you instead a piece of the villain of the book. So this is Brooke and Ava. They are sitting in a cafe and they are talking about their favourite TV show that features Cole. Distracted by a notification ringing out, Ava checked her phone. There's a weird vibe on Twitter today. I'm sure something big is going to drop. Brooke shrugged. It's probably another Marvel movie. That's all it ever seems to be. She changed the subject back. I'm thinking we need to promote our couple, have a weekend posting videos of their scenes and some of the not so safe for work fan art. The fans fiction is really gaining in numbers too. We have a very talented fan base. Let's get a hashtag trending of Mortar to keep the fans busy. Cole and Maria deserve it. They do such a great job. They deserve our loyalty. We stand two marvellous women. Ava giggled. Stan. Can't believe that phrase comes from an Eminem song about an obsessive fan. Makes us all sound crazy. Brooke barely looked up from her phone. Devoted. We are devoted fans. There's a difference. We stand a particular couple who give us the content we crave. Ava took a quick drink from her glass. Would be better if they were actually a couple in the show, though, and then we could really... Brooke's head snapped up. They are a couple. Ava sank down in a chair at Brooke's angry response. Well, technically they aren't, she muttered. They're not a canon couple. They aren't actually together in the show, and we just wish they were. Her voice trailed off at Brooke's glare. The show baits us with their scenes. They know they have an audience for that coupling, and it's just a matter of time before they put them together properly. They know the show is nothing without the Mortar fans watching. Their ratings would plummet if we all jumped ship. Brooke gave Ava another dirty look. Her phone dinged and she glanced at it. Oh my God, Cole is back on social media. She's tagged in a video. She quickly brought the video up and she and Ava crowded over the screen. Mishka Ballantyne posted it. Isn't she the one from the Alchemidans? She's a total MILF. Brooke shushed Ava and turned up the sound. She watched as Cole sat in a makeup chair and had her hair washed. What's she doing? Ava whispered, her eyes never leaving the screen. The skillfully edited video speeded up to reveal the spectacle of Cole Calder having her long blonde hair cut off quite dramatically. Brooke's mouth dropped open. Cole looked amazing, rakish even. Maria is going to cream herself when she sees Cole step on the set with that cut. I wonder why they did it. Do you think Cole got tired of them trying to make her look straight? Are they butching her up so Mortar can finally happen? She quickly sent a desperate prayer up. The video ended with Mishka's voice. Oh, you look gorgeous. Time for the reveal. Ava looked at Brooke. Reveal of what? Brooke shrugged. A nauseating pool of dread began churning in her gut. Cole didn't look like Chris anymore. The video switched to outside the production studios of Darrow Hayes, where a huge poster displaying the book cover of A Pocketful of Time hung. Oh my God, Ava squealed. I love that book. She gasped dramatically. Are they actually filming it? Brooke recognised Eris White. Eris was grinning at Cole's new haircut and teasingly tousled it. Aidan Darrow stepped between them and announced A Pocketful of Time was due to start filming that summer and that Cole's big screen debut would be in the role of Hollister Graham and Eris would be Emily Brown. They gave out the movie's official website and promised more videos and behind-the-scenes exclusives once they started the production. Ava clapped as the video finished. Oh my God, that's perfect. I can't wait. She fumbled for her phone. I have to follow that site. I don't want to miss a thing. Brooke was silent for a moment. Her phone dinged again. then began rapidly dinging one after another as her fellow mortar fans began messaging her. Ava checked her own phone. Her face fell and she looked up hesitantly at Brooke. Oh no, I thought this was just a rumour started by our rival fans. I'm sorry, sweetie. The Twitterverse has just exploded with the news. Her eyes shone as she teared up. Cold has left Fortune's Rise. No. Pain, intense and burning, seized Brooke and, for a moment, rendered her completely incapable of reacting. She gasped for air like a drowning man. Are you having a panic attack? Ava reached across the table and grabbed for Brooke's hand. Brooke, do you have a medication for it? An EpiPen? Oh, geez, I've never stuck anyone with an EpiPen before, but you're frightening me. She furiously waved to attract the attention of a waitress. Can you get us some water, please? Brooke's head was spinning, her heart pounding in her chest. Her world was ripping apart, and all she wanted to do was scream until she was hoarse and her throat bled. What am I going to do? She can't leave. I need her in that show. I need to see Cole with Maria. For a moment she bordered on blacking out. A thin veil of darkness crowded over her vision. Then she saw red. Her fury swept over her as swiftly as her desolation had. Brooke channeled all her anger, disappointment, and betrayal into a seething ball of hate. She stared at Ava and roughly shook her hand off. She can't leave, Brooke said. Ava hesitantly held up her phone. The studios confirmed it. They've written a very nice piece about her and their sadness in losing her and wishing her well for a movie debut. We have to fight to get her back. I'm not losing Mortar. I don't think she wants to come back, Brooke. She's moving on to bigger and better things. She's got the leading role in a movie. The book is a bestseller. The movie of it could be a blockbuster. She deserves this chance. She deserves Maria. Well, let's be honest. We knew that little fantasy was never going to really happen. Maria is straight and happily married, while Cole is a lesbian, footloose and fancy-free. Nothing ever comes of shipping a real-life couple. Ava reached across the table to touch Brooke's arm. Cole's going to be amazing as Hollister, and her new haircut just lets her scream lesbian loud and proud. That's the kind of representation we've been dreaming for from her. So excited for her. Aren't you even a little disappointed? Our favourite couple has just been ripped apart. Brooke glared across the table at Ava. Ava hesitated and Brooke stared at her. What? The show was never going to give us what we hoped and dreamed for. They were never going to be canon. We're going to have to move on, find our representation in another show that actually has two women together in it. Brooke stopped listening as Ava prattled on. But I'm not done with this show or its leading ladies yet. They're my end game. They're not over until I say they are.
Very nice and creepy.
I'm frightened.
Yes. And as Georgia said in the chat, those are very good voices. I like the way you switched. Very easy to tell who's speaking there.
Definitely.
That's awesome. Okay, so last is an author you've probably never heard of. No, just kidding. Everyone has heard of her. She is everyone's secret hero crush. The fabulous Georgia Beers.
Hi, gang. I am going to read to you today from The Secret Poet. Little background on the story. This is written in the point of view of Morgan. She is the admin for her brother's small medical practice. Perry is her big brother, and they take care of each other. They love each other very much. Perry has recently been divorced and is trying to get himself back into the dating scene. He's terrible with words. He doesn't flirt well, so Morgan helps him out. She will send notes back to the dates that he chooses on his dating profile. She will word texts for him. She helps him out. She helps him look good. She helps him sound good. So I'm going to read to you from early in the book when they first meet Zoe, who Perry decides that he wants dibs on. Little does Morgan realize that as she's helping him woo Zoe, she starts to have feelings of her own. It's never not busy at my job. There's always something to do. Filing, emails, invoicing, paying invoices. And if by some miracle of miracles, all of that stuff is done, there's the waiting room. Straighten the magazines, pick up the toys, put them in the toy box in the corner. Make sure nobody left coats, gloves, hats, purses in the closet area. My point being, there's always something to do. However, When you've worked there for 9 years and you have seniority and the boss is your big brother, you kind of have the freedom to let some of that stuff slide if you need a break, mentally or otherwise. And that Thursday, I just needed to lose myself in a book for 20 minutes. I knew something was going to happen that day. I can't tell you why. I have no idea. I just remember that I woke up with an odd feeling, not a bad feeling. And I don't want to say that things felt off because that kind of implies that I was scared or worried, and I wasn't. But something was definitely different. By the time I decided I needed a moment to forget myself in a book, the feeling had been forgotten and I was my normal self again. Morgs, can you make sure the pharmacy on Dickens has the revised prescription for Mrs. Curtis? I took a moment to finish the page I was on, something I always did when Perry came at me with no greeting and just demanded. Again, he's my brother and I can be insubordinate and get away with it sometimes. I carefully placed the bookmark and closed the book, and then I looked up at him. I'm sorry, what did you need? I smirked because I'd absolutely heard him and he knew it. I set the book down just as the front door opened and he looked in that direction. It's funny when I look back on this memory now because I didn't glance at the door. My gaze was on my brother and he was almost comical. His eyes widened and his lips parted, and I was kind of surprised to see some pink blossom on his cheeks because Perry was not a blusher at all. My big brother was most often the epitome of calm, cool, and collected. When you sometimes had to deliver bad medical news to people, having a poker face was very important. But that day, zero. He had zero poker face, zero coolness, zero chill. When I looked towards the door, I saw why. Stunning. I had read that word as a descriptor countless times, but I don't think I've ever actually seen a woman in person until then or since who elicited that word from me the first second I laid eyes on her. This one was brunette, and her hair was the first thing that caught my eye. Dark waves of it. A lot of dark waves of it. My fingers instantly itched to twirl it and dig into it. She was a little taller than average, and she carried herself with an air of authority, dressed in a smartly cut pantsuit that was a deep blue with a lighter blue top underneath the jacket. She shut the door behind her, turned to us, and smiled widely. And oh my God, the cheekbones, the gorgeous do a double take at that color, blue eyes. I swallowed some foreign lump in my throat as she crossed the few steps to my counter and stuck out her hand to me. Hi, I'm Zoe Blake. And right then, on that day, in that moment, in that very second that I slipped my hand into hers, I somehow knew that life would never be the same. I didn't know how or why or when, but I knew something was going to change forever. And you must be Dr. Thompson, Zoe Blake said as she shifted those eyes from me to Perry, removed her hand from mine and held it out to him. Only then did I notice that she held a plate in her other hand. Perry did that rapid blink thing that you do when you realize you've been staring for too long, but quickly pulled himself back into doctor mode, and he reached over the counter and shook her hand through the window. I am. It's nice to meet you, Zoe. It turned out Zoe Blake was our new pharmaceutical rep with Kelverson, a company we dealt with regularly. Zoe explained how she was new to Northwood, but not Kelverson. I just wanted to pop in and say hi, show my face, and leave these. She handed me the plate, which was piled with about a dozen cookies. I know it's a little unconventional to bring something homemade, but like I said, I'm new to town and I've been a little nervous, and when I'm nervous, I make cookies. She lifted one shoulder in what looked to be a slightly self-conscious half shrug and grinned sort of sheepishly, then added quickly, no nuts in them, FYI. Her smile, God, what was it about her smile? I was able to study her as she spoke with Perry, and there was something there, something underlying. Was it a sadness? And I had a sudden, almost irresistible urge to start asking her questions and getting to know her better. Like right then, I bit down on my bottom lip. My thoughts came to a screeching halt when I realized that both Zoe and Perry were looking at me, and it was like I'd been underwater, where all the sound is muffled, and then I broke the surface, where sound became startlingly clear. Perry's eyes widened at me, and he used them to gesture behind me. The phone was ringing. Oops. I hit the button and spoke into my headset, beyond disappointed that I couldn't stare at Zoe Blake any longer. Probably a good thing. By the time I finished the call, the whole time silently cursing Mrs. Jenkins for needing to set up an appointment at that very moment, the plate of cookies was on the counter to my left, and Zoe was heading out the front door. She looked back to pull it shut behind her, glanced up at me, and shot me that smile. It liquefied my insides instantly, and then she was gone. look, I need you to understand that I'm not a person who objectifies women. And I realize that's what it sounds like I was doing, because all I've talked about is what Zoe looked like. But that's all I knew of her at that moment, her physical appearance. And yeah, it was head turning. It affected me. But know this, Zoe Blake was so far out of my league, we were playing different sports. A woman like her, should she happen to play on my team, which I was sure she didn't, would never look twice at somebody like me. I knew it, and I was okay with it. It was my life, and I was used to it. But I could look. There was no harm in that, was there? And my God, she made the best cookies I'd ever had in my life. Thank you.
Very attractive and makes cookies.
Right? What more do you
that's-
need?
That was
That's trouble.
fantastic.
That's trouble right there. Yes, it's very, very good. I enjoyed that. So we have one question at least in the Q&A, and I have a few myself. We're going to start with Georgia because you just talked, so I'm going to make you talk some more.
Okay.
I said you're everybody's hero crush, and I meant writing hero before all you pervs start sending me direct messages. But after hearing you, I think you're also a lot of people's reading hero.
Well, thank you.
So what are your tips for a successful reading?
I think, first of all, it's practice. You have to practice. I'm a good reader in general. Like I can read things out loud. I could pick up a book and read it out loud and do it pretty clearly. But I think, especially when you're reading your own stuff, you have to practice because you know what you want it to sound like. I also think you need to go slower than you think you should because you're always going faster than you think you are. I remember in college, I took a speech 101 class. We all had to take it. And that was one of the first things that we learned is that you talk a lot faster than you think you're talking, especially when you're in front of people. So slow it down until it feels like you're talking too slow, and then it's perfect. And also, isn't there there's a Bold Strokes handbook somewhere. There's that Melissa Braden put tips on about reading out loud.
True.
So definitely take a look at that if you have your hands, if you're able to get your hands on it. Great
Yes.
tips there.
If you can break into one of our houses and steal it from us.
There you go.
Yeah,
Or,
no,
one of us might, be able to be bought.
With cookies.
Yes, sly, look at the camera. Yes. Lesley, we have a question for you in the Q&A. Sue B is wondering, would you do a follow-up to The Truth Behind the Mask? She says it was a brilliant story that led to more in a series.
One day, I would really like to go back to those characters. It was a fun one to do, especially being superheroes that were more of a vigilante type. And I love my superheroes. So I have an idea, and as soon as the other voices in my head have moved down a step, then yeah, I'd definitely like to do that.
I don't think that's really the way you should put that when we get back in front of people, especially. But no, I think that's an awesome answer, and I'm sure that gives people hope who really, really enjoyed that book. Those of us. Anyway, so Lynn, this is your first book with BSB or indeed ever, and if I may say so, it was a lovely book, fantastically edited. And I would like to know, what has been your favorite part of this entire process?
Getting a response and being like, really, you want to actually get this? You really want to go for this? This is not me imagining it. That was pretty damn good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also learning a heck of a lot about the editing process as well, because it's very difficult to know what you do repetitively and what you do wrong. Finding out how much I use the word just.
It's everybody's problem word. So it's one of those words that's like, I need to slow down what I'm saying because I can't think of the rest of it, but it's just something that gets trimmed. But I'm glad you slipped that in there about the editing process being one of your favorites. That's good.
Then all of my characters nod and smile. They nod and smile all the time. So much nodding, so much smiling.
With their hair, but then that's because I constantly play with my hair. So, like I've got to think of different ticks.
What about you, Nance? What was your favorite part of all of this?
I have to go with like what Lynn said, is the learning process. It just, you write because it's a passion and you don't realize how much you're doing perhaps incorrectly until somebody's going, hey, you're head hopping. You have 7 point of view, one chapter, So I think that was the biggest learning curve and poor Vic, but I absolutely embraced it, loved it, and just absorbing every little bit of knowledge that anyone will throw at me. I am having a blast. So,
well, that is awesome. That is much appreciated. It's better than if you're like, learning sucks. I want to do things my own way, and everybody else
no.
shut up. Yeah.
I am absolutely just like, give it all, feed it. I'm hungry, feed me.
That's
Love the
amazing.
knowledge.
In the chat roll, Lynn Carlson would like to know, Georgia, how was it writing in the first person?
I really like writing first person. I don't do it very often because my constant fear of writing in first person is that my character sounds like me instead of my character. And I'm afraid if I do it a lot, that's exactly what will happen. So I try to space it out among books. But when you're writing in first person, you can really go deep in the character's head. You can really get in there and delve into fears and worries and dreams. And I feel like it's a much more personal point of view, but I think it can be overdone. So you have to be careful with it, but I love it.
Yeah,
And I know that readers are polarized by that. Some readers love first person and some readers are like, ugh, no, I'm not reading this. I can't do first person.
It's too close. I don't want to know this person that well. I don't want to know anyone that well. Lesley, as an old hand at this whole writing thing, what is your favorite part of the process?
Old, thank you. I love the writing. I'm really happy when it's over. I like reading. I like the fact that I can sit down and whatever is going on in my head, whatever story it is, whatever people that I've got that want to tell me their story, that I have that chance to write it down and to get it out and to create that world. But the best part is knowing that there's people out there that enjoy them as much as I do, because I love my characters. I eat, sleep and breathe them. And it's just such a nice feeling to have people's comments back that go, yeah, we love that character, we want to see more of that one, or are you going to do something else of this one? Which is why the playing stories with Trent in, I keep going back to them because I love them to pieces, and I've got so many people that go, you really need to write, maybe just another one. So that's what I'm here for. So, okay.
Lesley,
awesome.
what is over your left shoulder?
I was wondering that too.
It is a baby tuk-tuk from Raya and the Last Dragon.
Okay. All right. I have not seen that yet, but I've heard a lot of things about it. And so I didn't recognize that character.
It is what I am obsessed with. So he is my lucky mascot to get me through.
All right. Fair enough.
Well, I was peering at it and I was like, is it a very still cat? Because I don't think so.
He's a fur bug. He's part armadillo and part bear.
That is quite a mix.
Yeah. Some enchanted evening. I don't think that's gonna work. Okay, so we have a couple questions, but I think we're probably only gonna have time to go to one of them. It's one of my favorite questions. Would any of you ever hop genres? And but more, if your answer is no, I always want to write X, then if you were forced to, which one would you like to just branch out and try? Let's go with Georgia first.
Thriller. I would like to write a thriller. That's my go-to read. I love romance. Romance is awesome, but I really would like to write a thriller.
Are you going to attempt it one day?
Maybe.
Oh, awesome. Nance.
I was right there with Georgia. My proposal I just gave to Sandy a few weeks ago was a thriller. So I'm looking forward to a yes, and whatever tweaks we need to make, and then jumping into it. So
awesome. Lynn.
I'm currently writing speculative fiction, and so with this one being completely set in the real world and very grounded, I'm now writing something about magic and you know, there are other ones that I've got ideas for, which are very kind of turning into slightly horror genre. And I think possibly the only one I probably wouldn't jump into is thriller, because I would have to work all of it out beforehand. And I'm not
That's
sure if
my
I'd be
fear too.
Yeah. Well, once you go spec fic, you never go back. So I mean,
Yeah,
that's something to
yeah.
worry about. What about you,
Yes.
Lesley?
I feel like I already write all the different genres. I just have it that romance is at the heart of it, because I've done Angels and Demons. Would you class Starstruck as a thriller? It's a stalker.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Fantasy.
Yeah. So really,
I
Western
wander around
is
everything.
just you gotta write like a gritty Western, and then you're done.
I've done
You've
Aliens,
done all of them.
Space Western.
Aliens.
Space
So
Westerns.
I do a bit of everything, but I'm happy with the romance. The romance is what I want the most.
Yeah. So say we all. Well, I'm afraid that is our time. I've had a great time. I would like to thank all of my fabulous panelists for being
Thank
such
you.
good readers and good sports. And
Thank you,
thanks
Barbara.
everybody for watching. And please stay tuned, because we have more fun all afternoon and evening long. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.